You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. November 17th, 2023. We've had some phenomenal records that took place really last week. It was Tuesday or Wednesday. The Washington Post reports the temperatures went into the mid-90s over the state of Oklahoma. We had several days of quite impressive record warmth last week. We also saw pretty impressive warmth this past week as well, several days. It's not comparable to what happened last year in November, but as we have pointed out in the past, this has been an annual occurrence. Every November, we go through a mild streak of days and days worth of unseasonably mild temperatures. Here in the Chicago area, these mild temperatures, the extensive warmth happened this past week for several days where temperatures were very mild. It comes to an end. We've spoken about this already for a month, I think even 2 months ago. 2 months ago, we spoke about the extensive mild spell that will be happening. It happens every November, so it's likely to happen this year, and it happened. We've also spoken about how forecasters were saying that there will be an SSW or some type of a sudden stratosphere warming, which could displace the polar vortex during the second half of November. Now, it's unclear at this time what is causing this disruption in the weather pattern, but the weather pattern flips to winter this upcoming week on Tuesday as we go into the second half of November. In fact, it's really the final 10 days of November. We really get a winter blast here in the Midwest, other portions of the country as well. Starting on Tuesday, that's when this flip takes place here in the Chicago area. As we perhaps have pointed out, 3 o'clock p.m., those winds come in from the northwest, biting winds from the northwest. Temperatures drop into the 20s. Any leftover precipitation from the system will fall as some snowflakes. The lake effect snow machines start winding up for the Wednesday, and all those portions, all those cities that are on the eastern parts of these lakes are really going to get those snow machines working. The lake effect snow machine gets going at full force for those areas for the middle portions of next week. And we have, for those snow lovers, with the most exciting part of this forecast, especially if you're a snow lover who's living in Kansas, is this low pressure system that is going to be developing. It sounds almost like a weak system if you look into the Kansas National Weather Service, but when you go over to the Des Moines National Weather Service, they paint a different picture. A potent low pressure system develops on top of a high pressure ridge. What does that mean? That's anything could happen with that. But they say what that means. It looks like the computer models don't handle it well. And with the high pressure ridge producing drier air, a lot of that precipitation will be evaporating before it touches the ground. Perhaps if you're on the north side of the system, says the Des Moines National Weather Service. Right now, the computer models push many areas receiving about an inch of snow, very widespread area of an inch of snow. Maximum amounts, we would say between 2 to 5 inches. That doesn't sound normal. Let's make it normal. 3 to 6 inches. That's what it's going to end up being, because that's what climatologically speaking, these storms generally produce. Storm systems in the Midwest could produce 6 to 12 inches. But this time of the year, we could say 3 to 6 inches. It would be in the bullseye. That would be taking place in Kansas. But a lot could change between now and then. It could be the whole thing won't even develop. But the Des Moines National Weather Service does tell us that this type of synoptic weather setup tends to be overdone by the models, and perhaps we won't even see that much. The 6 early Shabbos morning, this is a far way off, but it shows for the Chicago area, the light snow is ongoing, quickly coming to an end as a reinforcing shot of very cold air. It's got to be Arctic air. But that's the thing. There's more information needed to know where is this air coming from, what's the source of it. But until we find that out, it's got to be Arctic air with high temperatures dropping only into the upper 20s for this second air mass. Might even be the third punch of cold air. This Weather One weather app, which did a phenomenal job at forecasting an unseasonably warm week months in advance last winter, has been forecasting a cold and very snowy week for the Midwest months in advance this winter for the week of December 3rd. It continues to forecast that. This is for the states of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan. On average, a snowy week. It continues to forecast that. I don't know where they get their information. 3 to 5 days of snowfall, 1 or 2 heavy snowfall events with well below normal temperatures for the week of December 3rd. That's the One Weather app. I have no idea if it's accurate or not, but last winter, for months in advance, they forecasted an unseasonably warm week, and that is exactly what happened that week, as temperatures started off below zero, but it became unseasonably warm. Total flip-flop in the month of January as the week went on. So we'll see what happens this year. I wish everyone a wonderful Guten Erev Shabbos Kodesh. Have a wonderful Shabbos, a great weekend, and enjoy the mild weather for those cities which are going to have a few more days of mild weather before an Arctic front, a seemingly Arctic front, moves through on Tuesday here in the Midwest. The following information comes from the Washington Post. Saturday, November 11th, the week before, those days before, record high included 95 degrees in Hollis, Oklahoma. Hollis, 94 degrees in Childress, Texas, Childres, 93 degrees in Abilene, Texas, 86 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida. St. Louis and Memphis set a record high of 84 degrees. We will now take a look at Australia, an Australian heat wave. An extraordinary heat wave is in the process of developing over the Australia area. There's a city, Euarady. Average high temperature for today is in the low 80s. Forecast high for Saturday, November 18th, 104 degrees. Sunday's high 106, Monday 110, Tuesday 111, Wednesday 110. A cool front apparently moves through after Tuesday, but we're still about 15 to 20 degrees above normal. High temperatures Tuesday 99. Temperatures remain in the mid-90s to finish off the next week. Heat wave continues the week after that as temperatures are in the low hundreds. That finishes off the month of November, the final day, low 90s. This comes from AccuWeather, but a normal high for the city, again, is 81 degrees. Normal low is 57 degrees. And that heat wave extends well beyond just that area. It includes the West Lions River portions of Australia, which they've done phenomenal stuff over the past few years. AccuWeather reports normal highs in the 80s, but afternoon highs much of the time have been going into the 100 and teens. This is totally phenomenal stuff, and it's really requires major investigation, I would say, to figure out what in the world is going on over there. We're just going to mention that there is numerous possibilities of what could be happening from the midweek point on for next week. A lot of this depends upon a storm over in Canada. Depending on what storm track it takes, tells us the Bismarck, North Dakota National Weather Service. If the low pressure system should go further to the south, that will allow colder air to also go further south and will be affecting places like North Dakota into Thanksgiving. If that storm track goes further north, then a ridge located out west will be able to start to influence the western portions of the Midwest already by the end of next week. So it does depend on that. There's a lot to say in regards to whether the two jet streams, the northern jet stream and the southern jet stream, are going to phase, tells us the Buffalo National Weather Service. The Des Moines National Weather Service says we're not going to see that happening here in the Midwest. As a result, we're not going to be getting a significant snowstorm here in the Midwest outside of perhaps a lake effect snow event midweek for Michigan, places east of the lakes. The Buffalo National Weather Service tells us that if there is phasing, it's implied if there is phasing, it sounds like there could be a very significant lake effect snow event. But as of now, there is not expected to. But they tell us that the models are flip-flopping every moment. So either way, though, some lake effect snow is forecasted for the Buffalo, New York National Weather Service. The very first cold day of the season, the first winter feel of the season is expected for Cincinnati, Ohio. Chicago has already had it at the very end of October, but this week, Cincinnati could be seeing their first sub 40 degree high. The first cold weather of the season is expected for New Orleans, Louisiana, as they see their first sub 60 degree high possible this week. Severe weather potential is a possibility also with a strong storm system moving from the deep south up into the Great Lakes the midweek for this week. That's going to bring potential storms, possibly severe, for portions of New Orleans, areas north of that as well. This severe weather potential then transports itself east when you get later into the week, before the cold air arrives, and we even have a severe weather risk possible for the Philadelphia area, tells us the National Weather Service of Mount Holly, New Jersey. So the cold weather makes itself well known here in the Midwest. It does travel east. It moderates as usual a little bit by the time it does reach the East Coast. The variables of the forecast do start to become more complex Wednesday onward, so stay tuned for later updates in regards to developing systems possibly for the end of next week. Wish everyone a great week. Have a great weekend. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Take care. You've been listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. This podcast can be found on almost every platform where podcasts are available. The following is a weather trailer. We have two things going on. We have evaporative cooling and we also have dynamic cooling, and the two are coming together to produce a major snowstorm in the deep south. The only time you could blame cold air on climate change is when it's a result of the stratosphere warming, which is what causes all the Arctic air to come down south. The way to get a 6-inch snowstorm here in the Midwest and in the southern plains has always been you need 3 ingredients. It's hard to believe the numbers that are being forecasted. Several additional feet of snow is expected by Monday morning. Yes! Hey, we have a special guest on our show. What is your name?
Katabis.
27.1 barometric pressure. Feet of snow are falling in Japan.
Oh my God.
That's a time of celebration. Just Google Weather with Enthusiasm and they're all going to come up.